Welcome to our deep dive today.
Okay.
It's into Elon Musk's appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience.
Right.
Specifically, episode number 2223.
Yeah.
And we're going to focus on this one because it's, a really long-form, unfiltered conversation with one of the most influential people in tech and business today.
Absolutely.
And you've probably heard of the Joe Rogan Experience.
Right.
It's known for these wide-ranging discussions with all kinds of guests, and it reaches a massive audience.
Absolutely.
So this episode gives us like a really unique opportunity to kind of analyze Musk's thoughts on a whole bunch of different things, from video games to artificial intelligence and even his political views.
Yeah.
But before we get into the details, I'm curious, what comes to mind when you hear the name Elon Musk?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the unfiltered nature of the Joe Rogan Experience, because one of the first things that stood out to me in this episode was Musk's surprising connection with Rogan over something you might not expect, their shared passion for, the video game Quake.
Yeah, and we're not talking casual gaming here.
Right.
Musk actually revealed that he was so into Quake during college that he spent more time playing it than on his classes in his last semester.
Wow, that's dedication.
I know. And for those unfamiliar with Quake, it's a fast-paced, first-person shooter game that requires a lot of dexterity and hand-eye coordination.
Precise movements, quick reaction times.
What's fascinating is that Musk drew a connection between excelling at Quake and having the skills needed to be a surgeon.
Interesting.
He even argued that someone who's really good at Quake might have the potential to be a great surgeon.
Wow.
Because of that shared emphasis on precise movements and quick reaction times.
It's a pretty unconventional thought process, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder if there's any truth to it. Could mastering a video game actually translate to skills in a surgical setting?
It's definitely food for thought.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think about the transferability of skills.
Right.
And whether the abilities we develop in one area, like gaming, can actually be applied to seemingly unrelated fields.
Now let's switch gears to something a little more down to earth.
Okay.
Musk's diet. He casually mentioned that he follows a mostly carnivore diet, sticking to steak and eggs and cutting out carbs entirely.
Wow.
He even described it as a power-up.
A power-up.
Which is pretty interesting, considering the ongoing debates about the carnivore diet and its potential health effects.
What's striking is how Rogan, who's also a proponent of the carnivore diet, chimed in and dismissed concerns about the environmental impact of animal agriculture.
Yeah.
Even calling those arguments propaganda.
Yeah, it's interesting. This kind of highlights a key point we've seen emerge throughout this whole deep dive. How personal beliefs, even on something as basic as food, can be intertwined with larger ideological stances. It's a reminder that we often approach topics through the lens of our existing beliefs.
Absolutely. And it makes you wonder how these pre-existing beliefs might influence our interpretation of information.
Yeah.
Even on complex issues like climate change and dietary choices.
Let's move on to a topic that's been making headlines for years.
Okay.
Musk's acquisition of Twitter, which he has since rebranded as X.
Right.
His stated reason for buying it was to protect free speech on the platform, which he felt was being threatened.
He believed Twitter was becoming an echo chamber, stifling open debate and suppressing certain viewpoints.
And it's important to remember that this was a huge financial risk for Musk.
Absolutely.
He spent billions to buy a company that many saw as struggling.
Yeah.
All because of his belief in the importance of free speech.
It was a bold move.
It was.
Yeah.
And it wasn't exactly a smooth transition, was it?
Not really.
He faced an advertiser boycott almost immediately.
Yeah, I remember that.
With some companies pulling their ads because of the changes he was making to the platform.
That's right.
Right. And Musk wasn't shy about expressing his frustration with this.
Oh, no.
Calling the boycott total bullshit.
Yeah.
He specifically mentioned Twitter's handling of the Hunter Biden laptop story before the 2020 election as evidence of what he saw as biased content moderation practices.
That story became a lightning rod in the debate about political bias in media and the power of social media companies to influence the flow of information.
Definitely.
Musk's takeover of Twitter and his subsequent changes to its policies really threw fuel on the fire of that debate.
Yeah.
It definitely highlighted the complexities of content moderation and the challenges of balancing free speech with the need to combat misinformation and harmful content.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It is.
You know, one of the things that struck me in this episode was how Musk used Twitter's community notes feature as an example of his approach to combating misinformation.
Right.
For those unfamiliar with community notes.
Right.
It's this feature where users can collaboratively fact check and add context to tweets.
Interesting.
And what's interesting is Musk's firm belief in the efficacy of this crowdsourced approach.
Yeah.
He's even said that he won't manipulate notes on his own tweets, even when people disagree with him.
That's pretty impressive.
He even mentioned that people often from the left have asked him to remove notes.
Okay.
And he's refused every time.
He seems to genuinely believe that the best way to counter bad information is with better information.
Yeah.
And that transparency is key.
Yeah, it's a fascinating experiment in using collective intelligence to combat misinformation.
It is.
But it does raise some interesting questions, though. Can a system like this truly be neutral?
Right.
And how do you prevent bias from creeping in, even if the system is designed with good intentions?
Those are important questions. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how community notes evolves over time.
For sure. But moving on, Musk's conversation with Rogan went beyond just Twitter.
Right.
He also shared some pretty strong opinions about the state of American democracy. He went so far as to call the 2024 U.S. presidential election the last chance to preserve democracy.
Wow.
Which is a pretty bold statement.
It definitely got my attention.
Yeah.
And he didn't stop there.
No, he didn't.
Musk also leveled some serious accusations against the Democratic Party, claiming they're intentionally suppressing free speech, manipulating elections, and creating a society that prioritizes identity over merit.
He even argued that they're encouraging illegal immigration to influence swing states.
Wow.
Essentially trying to rig the system in their favor.
And he predicted that if Trump loses this election, Democrats will win every election after that, leading to a situation worse than what he sees in California.
It's pretty intense.
Now, it's important to note that these are highly charged claims.
Sure.
And they reflect Musk's personal interpretation of the political landscape.
Right.
It's up to each of us to critically evaluate these arguments, do our own research, and form our own conclusions based on the evidence.
We're not here to tell you what to think.
Right.
But to give you the information you need to think for yourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears a bit.
Okay.
Musk also expressed frustration with Apple's dominance in the cell phone market.
Yeah.
He specifically criticized their walled garden approach, which makes it difficult for users on other platforms like Android to seamlessly communicate with iPhone users.
Yeah, he even shared that he tried switching to an Android phone himself.
Oh, really?
But had concerns about the security of Signal.
Oh, interesting.
A messaging app that's supposed to be incredibly secure.
Yeah.
Apparently, even Signal isn't completely immune to government snooping.
This touches on a broader issue that's becoming increasingly relevant.
Right.
The tension between convenience and privacy in our digital world.
Yeah.
Rogan made a point that really resonated with me.
Yeah.
The illusion of privacy is essentially gone. With enough effort, governments can access almost anything we do online.
It's definitely something to think about.
Yeah.
Are we willing to sacrifice some convenience, some of that seamless integration that Apple offers?
Right.
For greater privacy and control over our data?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
For sure.
But it's a conversation we need to be having as our lives become increasingly intertwined with technology.
Definitely. Speaking of technology shaping our lives, Musk spent a lot of time talking about AI and automation.
Yeah.
Two areas where he's heavily invested.
Right.
He believes these technologies are going to fundamentally change society in the coming decades.
He talked about his companies working on solutions for sustainable energy, like Tesla's electric vehicles and SpaceX's work on interplanetary travel. But he also went deep into the development of autonomous robots.
Yeah.
Even predicting that humanoid robots will outnumber humans within the next 20 years.
That's a mind-blowing prediction.
It is.
And it leads to a really important question.
What's that?
What happens to all the jobs that humans currently do when robots can do them better, faster, and cheaper?
Musk acknowledged this concern, admitting that automation will inevitably disrupt the job market in a big way.
Yeah.
He even mentioned universal basic income as a potential solution to help people deal with the economic fallout.
But he also emphasized that UBI isn't a perfect solution.
Yeah.
It might address the financial side of things, but what about people's sense of purpose?
Right.
What happens when your job, which for many people is a huge part of their identity, becomes obsolete?
That's where Musk's vision for the future gets really interesting.
It does.
He believes that humans will need to adapt and find new ways to be valuable in a world increasingly driven by AI. He didn't offer any simple answers, but he painted a picture of a future where human creativity, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills will be even more valuable than they are today.
It's like we're standing at the edge of a massive technological shift.
Right.
And we don't know what the world will look like on the other side.
Yeah.
It's exciting, but also a bit unsettling, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that uncertainty brings us back to a theme that Musk touched on earlier, the fragility of civilization.
Yeah.
He mentioned that there's a 50% chance we'll mess everything up.
Oh, wow.
And that civilizations have a tendency to rise, peak, and then decline.
It's a sobering thought.
Yeah.
Especially coming from someone who's usually so optimistic about the future of technology.
Right.
He even brought up Stephen Hawking's prediction that there's at least a 1% chance of total annihilation every century.
It's a reminder that the future isn't guaranteed.
Yeah.
And that our choices today, both individually and collectively, will shape the world of tomorrow.
It really makes you think about the responsibility we all have.
It does.
In shaping a future that benefits all of humanity.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to dive into a bit more in our final part.
I agree. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
Join us in part 3 as we explore some of the more personal and philosophical aspects of Musk's conversation with Rogan, including his views on happiness, meaning, and the purpose of life.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Elon Musk's conversation with Joe Rogan.
Okay.
In the last 2 parts, we explored some, pretty heavy topics.
Yeah.
From the future of work to the potential collapse of civilization.
Right.
But this final part is where things get a bit more personal.
Okay.
And, dare I say, even a little funny at times.
It's true. Amidst all the serious discussions, there were some surprisingly lighthearted moments in this episode.
Right.
One of the recurring themes was Musk's playful rivalry with Mark Cuban.
Oh, yeah?
The billionaire entrepreneur and investor.
Right.
Musk couldn't resist taking a few jabs at Cuban, even comparing him to Rachel Maddow.
Oh, really?
The MSNBC commentator, because of their similar choice of glasses.
Wow.
He said it was unflattering, which is pretty classic Musk humor.
Yeah, classic Musk.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even these titans of industry have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
And enjoy a bit of friendly competition.
Right.
And then there was that hilarious attempt to get Grok.
Oh, yeah.
The AI chatbot developed by Musk's company, XAI.
Right.
To tell a really off-color joke.
They kept prompting Grok to use forbidden words and push the boundaries of what's considered acceptable.
Right.
But the AI kept coming back with pretty tame responses.
I know. It's like it was programmed to be a gentlemanly AI.
Right.
Even when they were trying to goad it into being a rogue chatbot.
Exactly. It really makes you think about the limits of AI.
Yeah.
And whether it can truly grasp the nuances of humor.
Yeah.
Especially the kind that challenges social norms and pushes the envelope.
It's a fascinating question. Humor often relies on cultural context, shared experiences, and a bit of mischief.
Right.
It's one of the things that makes us uniquely human.
Speaking of uniquely human experiences, Musk and Rogan also had a pretty amusing conversation about illegal drugs.
Oh, yeah.
And their varying effects on people.
You're thinking of Musk's point that you can judge the merit of any drug.
Yeah.
But whether you can complete the sentence, blank made me a better person.
Exactly. And he pointed out that no one ever says meth made me a better person.
Right. It's a funny observation.
Yeah.
But it also highlights the dangers of certain substances.
Uh-huh.
And their potential for addiction and destructive behavior.
It's a reminder that even in a lighthearted conversation about drugs, there are serious implications to consider.
And speaking of serious implications, do you remember that story Musk kept bringing up?
Which one?
About the guy in New York City who had his pet squirrel confiscated and killed by the government.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild one.
I know, apparently having a pet squirrel was illegal. So the government barged into the guy's apartment.
Wow.
Forced him outside at gunpoint.
Oh, my gosh.
And then took his pet squirrel away and killed it.
I can't believe that.
Musk was outraged by this story.
Yeah.
And kept comparing it to the movie John Wick.
Right.
Where the main character goes on a rampage after his dog is killed.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe that in a country that prides itself on freedom,
right,
the government could just seize and kill someone's pet without any real justification.
It definitely sparked a conversation about the limits of personal freedom.
Yeah.
And the potential for government overreach,
Oh.
even in a country like the United States.
Yeah, it makes you question where we draw the line
Right.
between individual rights and the authority of the state.
It also led to a funny side discussion about the ethics of keeping exotic animals as pets.
Oh, right.
Okay.
I remember Rogan sharing a story about the dangers of chimps as pets.
Oh, yeah.
How they don't just kill you, they maim you for life.
Right.
It's a sobering reminder that while some exotic animals may seem cute and cuddly, it can also be incredibly dangerous and unpredictable.
Absolutely, overall. I think what makes this episode so fascinating is that it's a window into the mind of one of the most influential figures of our time.
Yeah.
We see his brilliance, his humor, his contradictions, and his genuine concern for the future of humanity.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even someone like Elon Musk,
right,
with all his wealth and accomplishments, grapples with the same fundamental questions about life, meaning, and the future as the rest of us.
We've only scratched the surface of this 3-hour conversation, and we encourage you to listen to the full episode and form your own opinions.
Yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't already.
We hope this deep dive has provided you with some valuable insights into Elon Musk's worldview and sparked some interesting thoughts about the future we're all creating together.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.